Hello and welcome back to the Knits and Notions podcast. This is episode number 5, and my name is Kira, and I use they, them pronouns. I have been working on quite a bit of things, and I have been also trying to film this next episode for so long, but I either get interrupted or I just wasn't feeling it that day. And so I'm finally here to film an episode and talk about all my knitting before everything turns into finished objects and I have nothing more to talk about. But yeah, I'm just so glad to be here with everybody. Feel free to grab a beverage, grab your project, and let's jump into it and talk about what I've been up to. So, as I've mentioned, I have just been really busy with life and school and stuff, and it has really been interrupting my crafting time, which always makes me a little bit sad, honestly. Not to start this episode off on a kind of a low note, but that is the one thing that I most look forward to not being a student anymore, is just not having this surplus of work that I always have to constantly be doing, and to have a little bit more free time. Sometimes I feel like I really envy my partner who has a typical, not 9 to 5, but a typical job schedule, because then he can just come home and just do whatever he wants. And I just want that life right now because for me, it's I'm stuck in this office all day at my computer. And if I'm not doing internship stuff, I'm doing school stuff. If I'm not doing school stuff, I'm working ahead for school. And if I'm not working ahead for school, I'm filled with a sense of existential dread because why am I not working ahead for school? And so I just really, I'm not having a good time right now. And I'm laughing and smiling because today happens to be a really good day, but I have been full of stress and a lot of burnout as well. Which for me, I don't know about anybody else, but when I get burnt out on schoolwork, it usually means that I'm just very anxious and I don't do anything. I'm not falling behind on anything, luckily, but it's I'm on the precipice. So everybody pray for me that I can graduate, because it has been a lot. But all of that aside, life otherwise than school and internship stuff being a lot, I have been cooking a lot more and I have been baking a lot. I've baked 3 pies, I'm being a bit dramatic. I've baked 2 pies since I was last here. And I've also really gotten into cooking Indian food and learning about different regional dishes than what I'm used to. As well as getting back in touch with some of my own culinary roots. So I've been making Filipino food and just all my favorite foods, basically, which has been amazing. Because I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but over the summer, I definitely did not want to cook, did not want to bake. And so I'm just kind of catching up to that again. I think I mentioned that a little bit in my last episode, but yeah, it has been ongoing. I've still been cooking and having a very nice, cozy home life, apart from all of the low-key stress. So yeah, it's been really good. And because I feel like it's just a thing that happens in these podcasts now, I'll do a little spicy update. And there's not much to say other than she's still been doing really good. It's kind of weird because I'm getting used to seeing her with no teeth, specifically on this bottom incisor because she had one of her incisors removed. And so when you typically see a bunny, you see their little buck teeth. And typically they also have these 2 little buck teeth on the bottom too. But for Spicy, she has this little bump on where her tooth used to be. It's just a little gum. And so sometimes she'll look at me and I'm oh my gosh, my poor girl. But yeah, she's still been doing good. And I think the last doctor's appointment she had was October 20th. And I have a lot of handspun socks to show you and sock progress to show you because there was a lot of waiting happening with her and her vet appointments as per usual. But she did really well at that vet appointment. And so, yeah, just another thank you to everybody who's ever said anything nice to Spicy, because it's really nice to kind of be on like the other side of a lot of her health issues. I don't want to say that we're completely out of the woods yet, but things are looking really good, because the last appointment was to determine if she needed more surgery, and luckily not yet, and I hope not ever, so fingers crossed. But yeah, so let's just get into it, because I have a lot of stuff to talk about, and so I'll probably update, what I've kind of been up to and thinking as we go along, but I have a lot of stuff. I have like whips. I have an update on my MKAL shawl, which if you follow me on Instagram, you already know what's up with that, but I'm going to share anyways, just to get us all caught up on what I'm doing. I have some quilting, a lot of socks and accessories, and some spinning and acquisitions. So I'm just going to get into what I'm wearing first before we get into all the fun stuff. So as you can see, I'm wearing this very, very lovely shawl. And if this looks bright and fun to you and interesting, it's probably because it is a Stephen West design. And I think everybody probably knows that, just looking at this design. But this is the Bubbles and Brioche shawl. And this was actually the very first shawl I ever knit, ever. So yeah, I'll just hold it up to show you. It's giant. I don't know why mine is like so big, because I feel like the pattern it doesn't not look this big, but mine is huge. And this is knit with Cloudborne Fibers fingering. I believe it's like their Highland wool. I can't remember by now. This was knit back in like April of like 2021, I want to say. And yeah, so I'm gonna put this back on because it is chilly finally here. But yeah, this was the very first shawl I ever knit. And it does seem like a very ambitious project, I would say, especially for me, because at the time all I had knit were socks and just some very simple accessories like hats, and I knit stockings and different things like that. But this was the project I chose to knit before I knit my very first sweater, which was my Felix that I showed in the last episode. And I was just really in love with the design. I thought it looked so fun. I love the idea of a shawl because, like I've said like a billion times, and I think a lot of people say this too, is just that they're giant wearable blankets that aren't too big so that you can like easily get around in them, but they're just like an excuse to be cozy all day long, and I love that, and I need that in my life all the time. I'm actually currently covered in shawls. I have this shawl up top and a shawl on my lap that I will talk about soon once we get to the finished objects. But yeah, so I knit this shawl because I felt that this would be a really great way for me to practice getting used to making bigger objects before jumping into my first sweater. And I don't think every knitter has to be this like particular about when they knit what or how they do things, but I felt for myself, I guess I tended to be a little bit more like systematic about like how I began learning to knit, because for me it was just very important I didn't overwhelm myself, and I didn't feel like I was failing at anything, because previously, I don't really think I'm like this anymore, but previously in my creative life, I would get really discouraged by not being super perfect at something, and then it was like all bets are off. I'm never doing it again. I don't belong to do that thing. I don't belong here. I don't know. So yeah, that's kind of why I decided to slowly edge myself into knitting bigger things and more ambitious things. And this shawl was definitely a very ambitious knit. And there's definitely mistakes in it. Like I think you can definitely see right here where my finger is wiggling. There's like a big brioche mistake, but I love it. I wear this shawl all the time. It's like I call it my pajama shawl because I just toss it on all the time when I'm in the house, when I'm wearing my PJs on the weekend. Like, this is my shawl that I always just toss on. And honestly, I love to knit this pattern again, except for maybe in a non-superwash yarn this time, just because I feel like with the superwash, it doesn't keep me as warm as like a non-superwash, very fuzzy woolly wool might. But I still love it, and it's just very like a nostalgic knit to wear and have around because it just reminds me of, yeah, like just getting started into learning to knit actual clothing for myself, and everything like that. So yeah, that's my Bubbles and Brioche by Stephen West. And then next, I'm also wearing my Peric vest, which I will show a little bit here. So it is knit with Biche Bouche, Le Petit Lamb's wool, and held together with Barocco Ariel. And this is a design by Orlan Souche, also known as Ted Beche. And I just really love it. It's just a super simple vest, or like slip over, whatever you want to call it. And it has some really nice details, which you can't really see right now, but you can always check out, the Instagram tag on this design to see other people's works. But yeah, it's just like a really cozy vest that I always just put on over top this like very plain long sleeve shirt, which is like, these sleeves are very stretched out, so whatever. But I'm just like living my best comfy cozy life. Yeah, I really like the way this vest turned out too, with like the marled effect of the mohair and the yarn together, since the browns were slightly different colors. So yeah, this is my cozy knit fit. Okay, so I think for today, I'm gonna go ahead and get started with acquisitions first, because I recently came into possession of some very fun yarns by some very two sweet people that I'd like to share. All right, so my first acquisition that recently came into my life are these two naturally dyed yarns. And these are dyed by the wonderful Whim Lizard, Annabelle. And I had my eyes on these for quite a little bit, but it was only until recently that I had the extra money to be able to support their store and get my hands on these yarns, and I was really excited. And obviously I caked them up immediately after I got them, but unfortunately, just with like life being so busy, I haven't had time to knit with these yet, which is kind of sad and frustrating. But yeah, I really love these colors, and Annabelle did such a lovely job of naturally dyeing these. And especially like this one is like, I'm all about that. And this pink is really sweet. It's like a very pale peachy pink, and it's gonna be really fun to figure out what I want to do with these. I would say this one's more of a sport weight, and this one's probably closer to a fingering weight yarn. So yeah, I'm not too sure yet what I'd like to do with these, or if I will use them together or in different projects, but I'm very much ready to knit something with these beautiful colors. Speaking of more beautiful colors is this massive amount of beautifully dyed, hand-dyed yarn. So I'll show you here. You can see all of the different greens, speckles of orange, and yeah, everything. So this is by a very lovely Instagram friend of mine, who goes under the handle Little Homebody Yarns, Esty. And they were really kind in sending me some of their hand-dyed yarn. I believe this is in the colorway Pine Ridge, but of course I'll put that on the screen in case I'm wrong. And yeah, it was just a really sweet offer that they made. They basically had found me through my shop, and they said they were really inspired by my work and wanted to gift me something. And it was this 3 cakes of yarn, which is quite a bit. And I was just really, really glad to receive these. So yeah, but I'm very excited to knit with these. I don't often knit with like these like more indie dyed style yarns, who are superwash and with nylon. It's like a very typical sock yarn. So I'm always not sure what to do with these. But another one of my friends, McCool Makes, Christy, mentioned that the Dotted Rays shawl by Stephen West would be a really good project, she thought, for this yarn, and I definitely agree. So we are going to do a little mini, like, 2-person KAL to knit that shawl together, I think, coming in December. So I'm really looking forward to getting to use these, and it's just really, I just live for being able to knit with gifted yarn by sweet friends and knit with other friends and just like have a big friendship circle, like appreciation time through fiber craft, and yeah. And moving on to another acquisition. This one's a little bit different because it's a pile of books. Look how many books. So this was actually a bunch of books that I won in a giveaway on Instagram. I know, it's real. People do win those giveaways, and I was one. So I always feel like whenever I enter into a giveaway on Instagram, it always feels a little bit silly, and I'm just kind of like, oh, whatever, it's just for fun. I don't think I'm gonna win. But this one time I did, and let me tell you, the thrill was unimaginable. Like, I was so happy because it's such a wonderful giveaway to have won. So this is a stack of books all about fiber crafts and mainly quilting and sewing, I believe. But it has beautiful publications by wonderful artists of color. So this is a little zine called Diasporic Threads. This is a big book called Women's Work, From Feminine Arts to Feminist Art. And this book I'm really excited about, this little zine, Many Hands Make a Quilt. This person, Public Library Quilts, has a really great Instagram account all about quilting that I find super inspiring all the time to look through. And there is also This Long Thread, which discusses, I guess, like the relationship that women of color have to craft and community and connection through the fiber arts. So I'm super excited to delve into this. I like flipped through it already, and it's so exciting. I just wish I had time to get into it right now. And then finally, there was this other zine, just called Ideas for a New Art World. And yeah, I'm just really intrigued, and it's like super cool to be able to win a giveaway for something that will add so much knowledge to my life around quilting, especially because I don't know if I've ever mentioned it really, but crafting doesn't really run in my family, even though I know these crafts, especially quilting and knitting and sewing and embroidery and needlepoint and crochet, all usually tend to be something passed down through tradition, from one member of family to another. But sadly for me, my family members who did engage in these crafts didn't really pass it down to me at all. I don't know why. I guess they just didn't think I was interested. Like, both of my grandmothers on both sides did some crafting in some regard. But yeah, I've ended up having to teach myself a lot of things. Not really teaching myself, like learning from others online, I guess is a more accurate way of saying that. And so I felt like it took me quite a long time to fall into my passion for craft, because I just didn't really have any other touchstones in my life to learn from. And I'm also a very visual learner, and I really struggled to learn things just through books. And I always just needed somebody in person to kind of show me like what it looks like. So I had some very lovely people in my life, namely this one person's grandma taught me to knit when I was in 5th grade, I think going into 6th grade, on a houseboat in Tennessee in the middle of a lake. So yeah, maybe my cool grandmas did not teach me how to knit, but somebody else's cool grandma taught me to knit in the middle of a lake on a houseboat. So I'd say that's like a pretty cool knitting origin story, if I do say so myself. Okay, so next I'm going to get into some of my works in progress, because they have been quickly dwindling and turning into finished objects. So I'm just going to get to them before anything else changes. So first, starting off, I just want to get this out of the way because it is my MKAL shawl. I look so sad talking about it now compared to how excited I was to start it. And I'm not sad about it. Like, I'm really proud of myself for trying this. Like, look at this first section. Are you kidding me? It's wild. And the second section is so bold, so different to anything I would normally do. So I have a lot of thoughts. I love the yarn I chose. I love the colors I chose, but sadly, I just really wasn't vibing with the pattern. And this is something that can happen when you sign up for a mystery knit along, because everything's a mystery and you don't know what it's going to look like until it's done. And I think when I first started this and like bought the pattern and everything, I was thinking that like, oh, it's going to be a really fun mystery. And no matter what it is, I trust in Stephen West because I love his designs and he can do no wrong. And I'll wear whatever I make, no matter what. And I was honestly more concerned about like if I liked my colors than if I was going to like the design. But then I was awoken harshly to the reality that I didn't love the design, not because I thought the design is like ugly or anything, just because I couldn't see myself like practically wearing the design. So if you haven't seen the finished shawl, I'll go ahead and put it here. But it's a very modular, interesting construction. But it's also a very differently shaped shawl. It's more like long rather than a typical like this shawl, like very crescent shaped. I was gonna say croissant shaped, like maybe I'm hungry. Like, big flowy crescent shaped shawl, that's like a big blanket. This is not blanket vibes. It's like fancy, cool scarf vibes, which is also very cool and awesome. But for me, I'm like, I'm not going to wear that, like ever. So I really had to call it a day and be honest with myself. And I just stopped working on it after starting Clue 2. Which is sad because the thing I was most excited about with the MKAL was, of course, knitting along with everybody else and all of us being able to have like our finished object. And like, I don't know, I was like imagining all of my Instagram friends and I like wearing it together, even though we can't physically be together. But that was what was happening in my mind's eye. I was imagining like this beautiful world where all the MKAL shawl knits were like all together and we're all wearing it in different colors and it was so fun. And yeah, it wasn't really how it ended up working for me. I ended up finding a lot of community in people who didn't finish the shawl and it really helped me feel like not as bad about the fact that like I was so gung-ho about starting this MKAL and then I was like, no thank you, I'm done. And everybody was like, yeah, same, me too, no big deal, whatever. So whatever. I'm going to frog it and I am going to use this beautiful yarn for a different shawl pattern, which I don't know what to knit with it yet. Because I'm kind of struggling to find a shawl pattern that uses like 3 colors like this, like a main color, an accent color, and, or main color, contrast, and accent. So definitely let me know in the comments, like, tell me what I should knit with this yarn because I just need something with 3 colors. And I'm just stumped, but yeah, I'm glad I tried it and I'm glad I did a lot of new things that were hard and unique design choices. But it just wasn't for me. And I don't think that MKALs are going to be my thing from here on out. Because I just want to be mindful about how I use my money a lot of times too, especially when it comes to my crafting stuff. And sometimes it does really hurt my heart to buy a pattern when I have no intention of knitting it. So yeah, you win some, you lose some, I guess. Nobody's winning or losing here, but So most of my other whips have now gone and become finished objects. But I have been still working on spinning. And so I just want to share this quickly. It's really not much. It's just like spinning. Beautifully spun fiber. I just want to really shout out Kumasi, who dyes this fiber. This is Falkland wool, and I am trying to work through my spinning stash, all of my fiber, because I have some very exciting fiber spinning plans coming up very soon. So as I mentioned, I have some very exciting spinning plans. So I'm trying to spin through a lot of my smaller quantities of wool. So this Falkland, I have like a 5-ounce braid or something of it that I'm just trying to spin through so that I can get to this baby. And so this crinkly bag of fluff is a 1-pound bag of BFL undyed fiber. I bought this, I don't even know how long ago. It has to be like over a year ago. And I got this from my old local yarn store, which is the Yarn Barn of Kansas, because I wanted to support them, and I ordered it online since I moved to California after I started actually spinning and, you know, being a crafty person. And so I wanted to still take advantage of supporting their store. But anyways, I am really excited because I really want to start to spin my very first like sweaters quantity of yarn. So from what I've read mostly online, people say usually a pound, depending of course on like how thick or thin you spin, or your grist, or random woolen or worsted weight spin. Like how you spin the wool will affect how much quantity you get out of it. But for the most part, I know that a pound of wool will definitely at least get me either a sweater's quantity, a vest, like, you know, or like a shawl's quantity. I feel like I could just get a good amount of product out of this, and just something big enough to make something to wear, which is what I'm mostly excited about, because I just want to wear more of my handspun. I've only really had enough handspun in the past to knit socks or to knit like scarves, you know, or something like that. But I just like love the feeling of handspun yarn. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to get started with this. So even though this is like, I'm considering this a work in progress just because I'm like working on it in my brain, just like thinking about what I'm going to do with this wool. But yeah, just trying to get through all of this beautifully dyed yarn first, or fiber first, because I just want to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything in my stash and leaving it to sit forever and ever before starting something really big like this. So keeping on this trend of handspun and making things with my handspun yarn, I have this whip, which is a little mitt, and it has no thumb yet, but it is so sweet. It is also still knit from my handspun yarn that I made from my Artifacts of Appreciation bat set. And so you'll see I have a pair of socks in this as well. But yeah, I love it so much. I really need something to warm my hands lately. I made a pair of these mitts last year, but I lost them. So these are the Pioneer gloves, I think, by Boho Knits. And this is like a free pattern on Ravelry. This was probably one of the first patterns I ever downloaded, honestly. And it's just like a very simple, I think it's a 3x2 rib. And yeah, it's just a very simple knit, but it's very cozy, and it has this little rolled cuff as well, which you'll see matches the socks that I knit. But yeah, I'm very excited to finish these because my hands get very cold and my fingers get so stiff during this time of year, particularly like my thumb, which right now it's very bendy and nice because it's quite a bit warm in here now. Like now I'm like all wrapped up. But typically with this hand specifically, my right hand, I really need like mitts all the time in like the colder weather times, the colder seasons. That's what weather times are called. Because this thumb gets stuck all the time and it's super annoying. So yeah, I need mitts. So I'm trying to motivate myself to knit the other one because this thumb doesn't stay this flexy all the time. Okay, so moving right along to my finished objects. I want to start first with this hat because it's still damp. I'm still blocking it, but this is a very simple hat that I knit. I actually knit 2 of these while I've been away. One for my partner, which he is wearing at work right now because it's so cold. And I have my own in this very beautiful blue color. So this is, I think it's called the Lovely Ribbed Hat. It's just a very simple 2x2 ribbed hat by Pearl Soho. It's a free pattern online. And I knit this in Pearl Soho linen quill. This was also part of the yarn that my dear friends gifted to me. And I love it. I've never been drawn to like this bright blue color, but I have a couple of like wintry knits now with this color, and I really love it a lot. I think it's really fun. And just like a different color. I don't know, but it's just like a very cozy hat, and my hair. I love cozy hats. So yeah, I feel kind of weird sometimes because everybody's always like, how do you have all this knitwear? And the coldest it gets here is like 30 degrees maybe, which 30 degrees Fahrenheit to me is very cold, but to other people, they don't think it's very cold at all. Because they're like, where I'm from, it's -20 every day. And I'm like, okay. It doesn't get that cold here, but I'm a baby and I need warm woolen things to wear all the time. But I wear a lot of my knits inside because I'm just always cold, and we don't like to use like the heat and stuff as much just because of like resources. Our house runs on gas, so it's like, don't want to be using that natural gas all the time. So yeah, I just wear my knits inside all the time. So this is my hat, and I knit my partner one, which is gray. So very cute and matchy in that sense. Being on the theme of my Pearl Soho fanboy status is this shawl. Woo! So this was my Queer Immunity shawl. I am obsessed with it. Yeah, I have really nothing more to say other than the fact that I love it. And like, look, I can just like, I feel like green and these like pink color and everything are just like my colors. Because they just like light up my face so much. Like I'm wearing purple and brown right now. I just like feel like I look so like, bleh, even though I think this fit is cute. But when I wear this, it just like makes me feel so happy. And yeah, I've been loving wearing this shawl with my Jessie May outline raglan that I knit in chartreuse. Because it's just like so much fun, like explosion of green color beautifulness. But yeah, this is really cozy. I have said to pretty much everybody who will listen to me that you need to knit yourself a worsted weight shawl because it becomes gigantic, first of all, which is always a bonus. And then second of all, you can wear it. I'm just going to double up on my shawls. But you can wear it like this Gormo cowl situation and be like the coziest biatch alive. I don't know why I said biatch. Like, I feel like I'm in 5th grade again. You could be a cozy bitch, okay? And I don't mean that derogatorily. I mean that like reclaiming the word in a powerful and loving way. Yeah, so you can be very cozy, and I highly recommend. And especially the linen quill yarn. I love it in both the fingering and worsted weights versions. So I was very happy, and I feel very lucky to have gotten a chance to knit with this much of this lovely yarn. So yeah, for now, it will go back on my lap as a lap blanket. But yeah, I just love it so much. Continuing on, I have socks. These are very stretched out. Oh my gosh. You probably have seen these if you follow me online. I've just been really obsessed with them. These are Handspun socks, my second ever pair. And these were knit with my Artifacts of Appreciation spring sock bat set. And I finally decided, yeah, I'm going to make socks with them. I know at first, like last episode, I was kind of hesitating on what I would use the yarn for. And I was also thinking of applying that ball of the darker color with a lighter color, but I decided against all of that. I just decided to apply that darker color singles with itself. So I pulled from the center of the Turkish spindle cap and the outside and applied it together. And that is what I used in the heels and the toe. And also I did these like stripes. And you can see the variation because this was like the beginning of that dark gray ball. And then this was like towards the end. So it kind of got darker. And I held the toes and the heels together with that bright green silk mohair to hopefully lend a little bit of strength to them. And I didn't work on a pattern. I just decided to just cast on right away. So the cuff is actually a rolled cuff detail. I didn't do any ribbing or anything like that to start. And I think they look so cute. I should not put these on my face because I've worn these quite a bit at this point. So yeah, I'm just really happy with these. I feel like so far my Handspun is doing a wonderful job of holding up. I have worn these in boots so far. I've worn them going out shopping, walking around. I've worn them a lot around the house, in slippers, and so far I have no signs of felting or pilling or anything turning into a hole. So I'm hoping they last much, much longer than expected. But like I always say when it comes to my Handspun things, if it doesn't work out, I will just darn it and darn it and darn it again. And I'll just love them because they're really cozy and soft. And yeah, I think everybody needs a pair of socks knit in their Handspun if they spin at least once. And I took some extra precautions with the yarn as well. So when I spun this yarn, I made sure I spun the singles pretty tightly, as well as plying it very tightly together when I went. So there's not a lot of extra air and a lot of extra fuzziness to cause more felting in the way that the fibers kind of rub up against each other. And I think the blend of this wool as well was intended for socks. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I know that Artifacts of Appreciation, when they sold this, it was intended for socks. So I really hope that with all those things in mind, that these will last very long, at least as long as any precious hand knit does. And continuing on with the sock trend, you can probably tell I've been knitting a lot of accessories lately, but I did finish this sock. So this is the Forest Trail sock by Northern Knits and Purl. And it was knit in Holst yarn, held together with Starbeth dyes in mushroom mohair. And yeah, it's really cute. I haven't had the motivation lately to, what am I doing? I'm just like casually putting this sock on my hand. Now it's a mitten. As I was saying, I haven't really had the motivation to finish the pair. And maybe it will come back to me. But for now, I'm just going to put this in my project bag and remind myself every so often about it when I feel like knitting socks again. But lately, I've been really itching to get back to knitting bigger things. So I'm knitting hats right now, and I'm really hoping to start casting on a new shawl and a new sweater. Because like my Choco vest, I'm still working on that, but I've just not been like feeling it. I don't know why. Like, it's so weird when I get that way with projects, but once again, I never want to ever like force myself to do anything. I don't know if I mentioned it already, but like this podcast episode, like it took me so long to just like record this because I was always getting in the way of my work and everything like that. And I was trying to force myself to record this because I'm just like, I need to talk about knitting. I want to before everything is over and I don't have any other like stuff to talk about that I'm currently working on. But I don't ever want to make like my crafting a place of work for myself beyond like the small things I make from my shop. So yeah. So we'll see, but I'm not going to force myself to knit this other sock, but it'll eventually come, and you all will know when it does, because I'll tell you. And to finish off today, I did want to talk a little bit about some quilting. So if you know what I do, I have like a little shop online. It's just a little big cartel shop, and I sell my little pins. I sell like clay pins, stitch markers, and occasionally I'll also have these mini quilted coasters. So this is one I made recently, which is just like this diamond shape in the front, and it's a little acorn in the back. And this is sewn with Phoebe Wall's Garden Jubilee set of fabrics that are illustrated by her. And so yeah, I really like how this one is like very whimsical and fun in the back, and then the front is just very like classy coaster vibes. So this one was really fun to sew. And then today I just finished this one. So this is very cute, simple 9-patch little coaster. And it's just so cute. Look at the little gnomes. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I really love making these little coasters, and I'm glad that other people like them as well. Because I have one on my desk and I use it all the time. And I just feel like quilted coasters are just like so much fun, and just so adorable. So yeah, these are some of the sewing things I've been working on. I still have yet to really get back to my big quilt, and I think I'm gonna change some things about it. But for now, with quilting, I like having these like tiny little mini projects just to keep myself like fresh with the techniques, and also just to like be able to sew and quilt by hand is just so fun. And something I like doing even when I can't work on a really big project. All right, and that is everything that I have been working on and doing and crafting and stuff. I am still planning on having a shop update. I think this weekend is what I initially planned for, so I'm still going to be making some stuff this weekend, but for the most part, I'm getting really excited to cast on some new things to continue spinning, and just, yeah, I have a lot of exciting things planned for the coming months. And something I wanted to mention is that in December, I'm very heavily considering doing Vlogmas, but I'm also considering maybe doing it in a little bit of a different way. I know last year the Gentle Knitter did one that was kind of like a countdown to winter solstice, rather than what is more common with like Vlogmas videos is that they will go from the beginning of December every single day until Christmas. And while I do celebrate Christmas, I do also want to be realistic with myself in that time of year is very busy for me. So I don't really think I can do a video every single day until Christmas. And so I might do something like a little bit more vlog style, like once a week in December, maybe up until the winter solstice, because the winter solstice is actually my partner Erin's birthday. So December 21st. And so it can kind of be more of like a birthday countdown for Erin. And so I think that might be fun. And yeah, I think it would be a really fun way to like show a little bit of what I get up to in my day-to-day life when I'm crafting. I wanted to do like a little like workspace tour so you can see like what exactly I have going on behind me. And I also want to share a little bit of like my gift knitting stuff, and what I'm planning for that. So yeah, that's something to look forward to. If that's your thing, you can see me a lot more frequently here in December, hopefully. That is if life in school doesn't get catastrophic, but hopefully it won't, because I'm pretty worn out already. So yeah, thank you for watching. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day and hanging out with me and listening to me ramble and talk about my knitting. And I'm really looking forward to all the videos next month. So yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.